Hello everyone, welcome to hands-on Java tutorial. We will be doing a series of Java tutorial on the important concepts of Java. Today is part one. We will go over what are objects and classes. Um, what are objects? Objects are something that represents an entity in the real world that is represented by the state and behavior of that entity. An object state is represented by variables and fields, which are also called attributes, and an object behavior is defined by a method. On the other hand, class is a template or called a blueprint or a contract that defines what an object will look like. All right, so we're going to create a real life class as an object. I'm going to use the Eclipse, and before we do that, we have to have the Java JDK and Eclipse installed on the machine. We have been through this tutorial before, so you can see the links below in the comment section for videos on how to install Java and Eclipse on your Windows 10 machine. All right, so I'm going to start up Eclipse. When Eclipse startup, it will first ask for the workspace. I have a Java training workspace already created, so I'm going to launch that workspace. All right, now I have an empty workspace. I'm going to create my very first project. I'm going to go to File, to a Java project. I'm going to name that project Tutorial 1. Click Next. I'm going to uncheck this, click Finish. All right, now I have a very basic project. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new package. And as mentioned before, package is just a way to organize your Java classes. So my package is com.ett.tutorial. Now I'm going to create the very first class. Now, the real life example that we're going to use for this tutorial is the square. Now, square is an object, real life object. Now the question, how do we represent that object in our class? So we have a new class, a public class square. We're going to define the attributes of square. Now think about what are the attributes that a square can have. So I'm going to start out with private string, and the name is my first attribute. Also, I'm going to use, let's say, color. What color is square? And then the third one I'm going to use, which is the important one, is the side length. What are the length of the square? All right, so these are my attributes. That I have 3 attributes defined. Now I'm going to go ahead and create the constructor for square. The first one is the empty constructor that take no argument. The second one, I'm going to use 3 arguments. I'm going to pass in the name of the square. I'm going to pass in the color of the square. And then I'm going to pass in the side length. So this constructor will take in 3 arguments, and it will initialize the square attribute. So this dot name equals to name. And see if I'm using this keyword, which represent that I am changing the values in this particular instance of the class. So color, and then this dot side length equals to side length. All right, so now I got my constructor created. The next I'm going to do, I created the attributes. I create the constructor. Now I'm going to define some of the behavior of the class. I'm going to create some method to define the behavior of the class. So the first method I'm going to do is calculate the area of the square. I'm going to have a method which will calculate the area of the square. It does not take any argument, and it returns this the side length times this dot sideline. So this is the formula that I have to calculate the area of the square. So this is one of the behavior, one of the actions that this will do is calculate the square. The other action that I want to define is, let's say this square has a capability to draw itself. So I'm going to do is public void. It does not return anything, and it has an action of draw, which means I'm going to take this. I have written this thing earlier, so I'm going to use that. All right, so this is my the other behavior of this circle does is it draws itself. All right, so I'm going to save this circle. Now I'm going to test my circle. So for that, I'm going to need a new class created. I'm going to call this class app. I'm going to check this public static void main method. Main method is the entry point to run the Java class. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a object of type square. I'm going to name this object as square1. And whenever you create an object you have to use the new keyword to instantiate the object. I'm going to instantiate the object with our constructor, which takes in the parameter. I'm going to call this square1. The color, make it red, and then the length will be 5 inches, let's say. All right, so this is my square, and I'm going to access the information inside the square. So which is, I just created a square. Now let's say if I want to access the attribute inside the square, which is the name attribute. Let's say name of square. All right. Now, if you notice that I'm unable to, I'm seeing a red line. If I run this thing, there is a problem with this piece of code, and you will see the problem. It says the field square.name is not visible. Even though we know name is one of the attributes of the square, but it's not visible, and the reason is because name is private. And this will lead us to this one of the important concept in Java is the Java encapsulation. Encapsulation is what it does. It hides the data. It provides the ability to hide attributes of class by making them private, so no one from outside can directly access them. So one of the good things about encapsulation is that you have the capability to hide from the outside world anything that you do not want other outside world to see, and you have the capability to show, to make it public, to make it available, anything that you want to do. So you control what is visible and what is not visible. So right now, but 3 of the attributes are not visible. I'm going to make them visible. And the way I'm going to make them visible is I'm going to create a public getters and setters method for them. And the way I'm going to do that, the Eclipse IDE has a nice feature that will write code for you. So if I right click on the class and go to source, and from the source, if I say generate getters and setters, it will show me all the attributes, and I can select which attributes. So I'm going to select all the 3. I'm going to make my access modifier public for that, and then I say generate. So now if you look at my class, I have get name, get color, set colors, get side length, and set side length. So these are, now I will be able to access my attributes through these fields. So to test this thing, I'm going to go in my app.java, my test class, and I'm going to say for my square1 object, I want to get the name of the object. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to run Java application, and here you go. Now I was able to access the attribute. Now let's say I want to invoke the behavior of this object. So I want to say calculate the area. I'm going to do another sys out and see area of square, and this will give me the area of the square. And if I save it, run it, now I can see the area of the square is 25 because the side of the square is 5. Now I want to invoke one of the behaviors of the square. So I'm going to do this is I'm going to say square one to draw itself. And I'm going to call the draw method on the square one. Now the square one will draw itself. And here we can see the name of the square is square one, area of the square is 25, and this is how the square was one of the functionality of the square. It draws itself, and this is how it works. All right, so this is today we learned how to represent a real life object square, how to set the attributes of the square, how to set the method of the square, and then how to create a constructor and then instantiate a new object of the square. And we learned about the encapsulation, data hiding. And that's all for today's tutorial. Thank you for watching the training video from Expeditors Tech Training. Click on subscribe icon to subscribe to this YouTube channel to get more videos in the future. Thank you.